I'm going to answer questions. You guys can stay, you can go, whatever you need to do.
We're going to stay with you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, Senator, your opponent has a new commercial out that addresses the exact issue that was addressed by the other gentleman, President Zona and yourself. Can you tell me what your thoughts are on that commercial that began during this week?
I haven't, can you tell me what the commercial does?
It says that I will never defund police. That's crazy.
It's crazy. Oh, why didn't you say that in 2020? Why was Val Demings, instead of saying that in 2020, when they were burning police cars and talking about defunding the police, saying that it was a thoughtful idea what they had in Minneapolis? That would have been, that would have been pretty good if she had said that in the middle of that moment. Why, when the moment came to take these votes on whether we wanted to strip qualified immunity, well, understand what that means. They want to be able to sue police officers and their departments. They want to go after them on an individual level. I said, fine, then lift qualified immunity for members of Congress too, because if someone doesn't like some law we passed, they should be able to sue you over the law you passed. And so why wasn't she saying that? I know the answer. The answer is because she wanted to be picked by Joe Biden to be her vice president. And she has a party whose most vibrant voices, the people that get the most attention, raise the most money, and do the most work, are crazy. They're radicals who think we don't need police departments. We need less of them and more counselors to come out in a van and counsel people. You would have sent a counselor to go see that guy yesterday in LA, that person would have gotten shot and killed too. And then his wife, his girlfriend would have died. So I'm telling you that one thing is to say it when you're campaigning and to put out a commercial, but say it when it matters, when you're under duress. Now it's easy to be for police, right? Because now we see the consequences of nuttiness. But when it was really mattering, when they were setting cars on fire, where was that? Where was the strength in that? And I'll say one more thing. I think this is really interesting, okay? I watch these news stories, and now, most law enforcement departments have body cams, and everybody wants to analyze these videos like it's an instant replay on Monday Night Football and just slow it down. That's not the way it works in real life. In real life, you have a split second to make these decisions. Split second. I'll never forget the case where a police officer is called to the scene, and it's two girls fighting in the street. One of them has a knife and about to stab the other one, and in a split instance had to make the decision about whether to fire or not. And immediately, people came out and tweeted, oh, they murdered a girl. Well, as it turns out, and there was a heck of a shot. You guys remember that video? It was a heck of a shot because if he misses, he actually kills the victim instead of the assailant. In a split second, my immediate reaction to that was, he didn't take a life, he saved a life. That young lady had a knife in her hand and was about to stab another young lady and kill her. Now, it's easy to sit in some studio in New York and analyze that video in freeze frame and say, well, he should have done this, he should have done that, we should have called a counselor to talk her out of it. It's ridiculous. That's the kind of stuff that we live through right now. And they face the worst elements in society every single day. You pull somebody over, or you get called to the scene of a domestic dispute. Am I wrong? Domestic disputes are the most dangerous call out there. You have no idea what you're walking into. You pull somebody over, you have no idea what you're dealing with. This could be a fine, upstanding person that just drove too fast. It could be someone, one of the lights doesn't work or the plate doesn't match. Or it could be a hardened criminal who is on the run and has a bench warrant and doesn't care about anybody or anything. It's unbelievable. You just don't know. None of us have to face that. None of us have to go through that on a daily basis. So people that are doing that every day deserve our support and the understanding it's a very difficult job. It's a very important job. Without them, we live in chaos. Without them, we live in a country where we live in what you're seeing some places now. People getting pushed into subway trains, people walking down the street in New York and being assaulted on a regular basis. By the way, dramatic number of retirements happening in the NYPD because they don't have their back. And how are you going to recruit new people? How are you going to go out and recruit young people and say, hey, why don't you become a police officer so you too can get smeared on television? So you too can be called a killer and a murderer or an evil. How are you going to do that? Ask law enforcement how many of their kids they're encouraging to go into law enforcement because of everything that's happened. We're in a lot of trouble if we don't get this right, if we don't fix this.
Senator, quick follow-up. There is bipartisan support for a funding initiative, the Invest in Law Enforcement Act, in the House. If it actually makes it through the House, is that something that you would vote for, that provides grant funding for departments?
Sure, and we voted for it in the past. And I've also had to fight off wackos who want to, they say demilitarize the police. You know what they're talking about? Surplus military sales, like armored vehicles and the like, so that if there is a hostage situation, these people are protected and can actually go in and take these people out and say, oh, we don't want to militarize the police departments. Well, we have militarized criminals who are willing to kill as many people as they can get their hands on. So the point of the matter here is that I'll support it, but that's not the way it'll work. The way the trick in Washington is we'll take this really good idea and we'll put it in a bill of crazy stuff. And then we'll dare you to vote against it. I'm not going to vote for crazy stuff to get good stuff. I'm for good stuff. So if they want to vote on something that provides more resources for police officers, I've always voted for that, and I'll continue to do so. I think the federal government should not tell them how to do their jobs, but should help them do their jobs. Because many times they are cleaning up the mess that Washington is making in our country.
I have a question, Senator. Any programs that you can shed light on that you may know about law enforcement in Puerto Rico? There's a huge crime wave
Yes.
happening right now. I mean, it's been going on for years,
Well,
but it's really bad.
sure.
And we have a lot of Puerto Ricans who come to Central Florida, so sometimes...
No, it's, so first of all, let me say, people forget Puerto Rico is our southern border. Right? If somebody illegally enters Puerto Rico, they're in the United States. There's no customs after that. A lot of people don't realize that. You're absolutely right. Because what's happened is that criminal groups are taking advantage of Puerto Rico as an entry point to the United States, and their government there sometimes doesn't have the resources to confront it. So I think it begins with the federal agencies, which I've long been supportive of increasing the funding and push the DEA, the FBI, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms to build up our presence there, and the Coast Guard for that matter, to be able to deal at the front lines of it. Beyond it, through the Justice Department, we've consistently been supportive of additional grants to Puerto Rican law enforcement, because a lot of times what happens is that our federal funding is distributed to the states, but a territory or a commonwealth like Puerto Rico doesn't get a per capita share equal to what you would see given to a state of similar size. And so we've long worked and pushed on behalf of that as well. And the third point I would make is we've worked hard to make sure that on this issue that we talked about with the ability to find financing, almost like the Veterans Program works for veterans seeking to purchase their first home, we want to make sure that also applies to law enforcement in Puerto Rico so that those who are serving there can also afford to live, obviously, and be able to sustain the cost of living, which is rising in Puerto Rico as well. But the issue of criminality there has arisen, and in many cases, it's because it's become the entry point, not for people in Puerto Rico, but for people from other places that come through there, run their drugs through there, run their guns through there, and then we leave under-resourced departments there at a time when Puerto Rico already faces a lot of fiscal constraints and a lot of challenges to their budget because of, yes, mismanagement, but also because of some pretty historic natural disasters.
Do you support Puerto Rico becoming a state, yes or no?
I support the people of Puerto Rico deciding whether they want to become a state, and you know, I have my personal views on it. I won't get to vote in that election, but I've always said if the people of Puerto Rico vote to turn in that they want to be a state, then I think the Congress should honor that. But I think there has to be a decision they make.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. Thanks again, guys. I'm really grateful for you guys for standing with me.